This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition and by Onyx Hunt, the #1 GPS hunting map app. Onyx, know where you stand. Today we're talking wild game food preparation, recipes, and tools to help turn ordinary meals into extraordinary meals. Jonathan Tremblay is my guest. He has a very unique job testing products, recipes, seasoning, smokers, meats, and so much more. We'll pick his brain to help take your harvest from field to fork. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host. Brandon Morton, as always, is our producer. I'm excited for our conversation today because I'm pretty sure that no matter what kind of birds or animals you hunt, our guest today will have information that will be useful for you. That's because we're talking about meat. Yep, meat. Recipes, supplies, equipment that you can use for everyday food preparation. Jonathan Tremblay, welcome back to the podcast. Appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Travis. What was it, about a year ago we spoke last time, right?
It was, yeah. I mean, the world got turned completely upside down just over a year ago. There were empty shelves all over America because of the toilet paper run.
That's right.
We decided to, I really wanted to understand what was happening in your world. So we had a conversation about the effects of COVID on the meat industry and the food processing industry. And you guys, your world was completely turned upside down as well. Is it still that way?
So yes and no. We're definitely busier than we would normally be at this time of the year. Last year, we had no slow season whatsoever. Things just kept going and going and going. Generally, from September till February is our busy season. And in those off times, we still do a decent business, but we use that time to focus on projects, get things done around the office, because during our busy season, it's usually all hands on deck, white knuckling it, just get through it. Last year, we'd never experienced a slowdown. A couple reasons for that. The number one was when they closed down some of those big processors, Smithfield, Tyson, a bunch of those places closed for COVID. Mm-hmm. Our main customers, which is the small to medium-sized processors, they picked up a bunch of that business. So that was part of it. Another part of it was, for the first time, people went to their grocery store and weren't able to get any cut of meat they wanted. Normally you figure I can get flat iron, I can get fillets, doesn't matter. There was a period last year where you were restricted with what your choices were. Just not anything you wanted was available. So those people started going out to their local locker plants, and I think they just really liked the level of service and the finished product. They got better than what they were getting at their grocery store. So our whole thing was, if those small to medium-sized processors can just maintain 10 to 20% of the business that they picked up, it was going to change the way we have to do everything. And they've definitely maintained that throughout the whole year. So at Walton's, we are trying to bring more people in to help support our customers. We have a fully staffed customer service department. We've hired new commercial salesmen. I'm trying to bring people in to the media department. But it has just been a whirlwind, to put it mildly. This past year seems like it's gone by in about 4 months to me.
Right. Well, do you know, okay, so you serve, like you said, those butcher shops, small, medium-sized, all across the country, but you also serve just, hunters, people that make their own food at home as well. What percentage would you say is commercial versus individuals like myself?
So that's a great question. When I started here about 7 years ago, it was about 95% commercial and 5% retail.
Okay.
We've grown retail year over year over year. It's now about 70% commercial and 30% retail.
Okay.
We've done that by trying to focus on the hunter, the guy who wants to make meat products at home by giving them all the information, the how-tos, all the videos that they could possibly need to be able to make the best product with whatever they purchased from Walton's.
Well,
So
that's oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say we've done two things in doing that. One, we've recruited in new customers by, people telling their friends, hey, I bought this. I made this with Walton's instructions. So they hopped in and started trying that as well. And then the other thing we did is we gave the home processor who's maybe done like some barbecue and maybe made, some sort of sausage in the past, we gave him more confidence to try more complex, difficult meat projects.
Well, and I think that's kind of the main reason I wanted to have you on today is because I feel like there are so many people that get intimidated by the idea of making their own food, working with the meat. So then they just don't do it. They think they're going to mess it up, so they don't want to try it. But you get to work with it and mess it up every single day and tell people what works and what doesn't work. But before I get into kind of what your role is specifically, so I feel like at Walton's, you guys are kind of like the Amazon of the meat market world, right? Like you guys sell everything you could imagine from the equipment to the seasonings. But, well, I mean, your motto is everything but the meat, which it's true. Do you know how many SKUs you guys have? Any idea?
So total SKUs would be north of 5,000. I believe it's just over 4,000 that we keep in stock. So it's 4,000 individual products that we could be ready to ship the same day. And then it's got to be at least another 1,000 that would be special order. We can bring them in within, a couple of days, sometimes a week. So yeah, you could go to the website and there's over 4,500 different products on there.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you've been there for 7 years. What is your job description at Walton's? I know you're in the media world, but that means you're working with the consumer, right?
Correct. Yeah, my title is media manager. So the people who do our graphics, the people who edit our videos, anything with the website comes through me. And that's the behind the scenes stuff. What I'm most known for, at least from our customers, is I do all of our how-to videos. I do all of our live streams, our podcasts. So I guess you would call me like the personality, I guess. I don't know. I definitely don't want to say I'm the talent because that's reserved for people who have a far better grasp on what they're doing than I do.
Yeah, are you the meat guy would be a
pretty
fair
much,
title?
Yeah, that's more fair. One of the best things that I get to do is we have a website. We talked about this last time, Meatgistics. What we created Meatgistics for was a place to host articles for the videos we were doing. We wanted, from a search engine optimization standpoint, we wanted to have a place where we could have all of the text of what we talked about in the videos somewhere written down and links back to waltonsinc.com. We also opened it up just as a community section, just because we figured, why not? This will give customers another way to interact with us. Well, that has absolutely blown up. We now have 15,000 users, and a lot of them are daily users. They post everything. There's one thread called What Did Everybody Cook Today, where people just post their favorite dinner or whatever they just made, recipes for it. And that gets thousands of views a week. It's really insane. And
well,
go ahead.
There's one thing that every human has to do every single day, they should anyway, is they've got to eat, right? We all have to eat. And so I feel like this, your world is important to everybody. And I'm sure that you guys do every single cut of meat from what I've seen, right? I mean, do you know what percentage, well, probably not what percentage, but do you spend a lot of time on wild game, or how much of your time is spent on wild game?
So we've got a section of Meatgistics called Meatgistics University, where we try to break down meat processing into like 8 or 9 core sections. And one of those is wild game. So we've done a bunch of different stuff with wild game. I mean, we've made pheasant snack sticks, goose sausage. We have a couple of different recipes for back straps, how we like doing it. Venison summer sausage, all that. Mm-hmm. Because making a sausage out of venison is significantly different than making it out of pork or beef. Venison has its own challenges, definitely its own flavor profile. And there are certain things you have to do with it that just don't necessarily come up when you're doing it with beef. Now, the number one would be what kind of fat you're going to add. Because no matter what the sausage is, venison's not going to have enough fat to get the job done. Or at least not to get it done where the average person is going to like the finished product. Mm-hmm. So we've done a lot of playing around with different fat percentages, what works best. Can be different for summer sausage than snack sticks, just depending on what the finished product you're looking for. But generally, for summer sausage, we found 30% pork fat, and just straight pork fat, not a pork butt, just the fat, makes absolutely the best summer sausage. Venison summer sausage with 30% pork fat might be my favorite way to make summer sausage now.
How many attempts did it take for you to figure out that exact number?
So the first time we did it, I think we tried it at around 15%, knowing that would be low. Then we did a couple of batches at 20% and really liked it. Then I tried another one at 25 and liked it more, but there was still something not wrong with it. That's the wrong way to say it. It still wasn't as good as it could be. So finally settled on 30, and now I've made a few batches at that, and I'm definitely never going back.
So I think one of the challenges for a lot of people when it comes to, going into making their sausage, or let's take sausage, for example. It's typically done in a large amount, right? And most people don't shoot 17 deer in a season. They're most likely going to get one. So they're going to make, I would say on average, one, maybe two batches of sausage a year, right? So whatever game plan they try, whatever recipe they're going to go with, that's it for the season. So they don't get to have the luxury that you do to say, well, I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try this. They pick one, and then next year they're going to adjust if they feel that they need to. So I feel like there's a lot of value in your ability to work with so many different cuts of meat, or so many different recipes, or so many different trials. Do you have any guess as to how many different recipes you've tried since you started working at Walton's?
Oh, God, no. I would say probably out of everything we do, generously 20% makes it into some sort of video. That's probably fair. For every 10 things we do, 8 of them either get scrapped or it wasn't enough of a difference from a previous video to make it worth putting it out there. One of the best things about my position is I do get opportunities to try all sorts of just absolutely wild things. In the last couple of years, the biggest ones have been this tender jerky, which I tried to send you and it didn't make it. And I'm furious at myself.
I'm furious at you too. You told me I was going to be having jerky and I was so excited. And I've been staring at the mailbox and it hasn't arrived.
It will show up. So you'll get to try it after. But what we do with jerky is we're lowering the water content on it so much that it's shelf stable. So it's not going to grow any bacteria or mold. But jerky can be a tough product to chew. I mean, that's what happens when you remove that much water. You're left with just the protein. So we're going to have, a dry product. We wanted to come up with a way to let it stay shelf stable, but still have a nice tenderness to it. We started doing that with just adding 18% of the product's weight in brown sugar and 20% in water. We then vacuum tumbled it, did a special smoke schedule, and we're really happy with the results. We told everybody to do it this way, and then just kind of fell into a comfortable routine with it. Then one of our commercial salesmen and I started getting deeper into the processes behind it. Like, what else could we do to make this more tender? So we made some adjustments. We now, instead of water, we use low sodium soy sauce, lemon concentrate, and rice wine vinegar. We then vacuum tumble that, let it sit at least overnight, and then use that same smoke schedule. And it is night and day different than any jerky you've had before.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The taste
That's interesting.
is awesome. And we use the Walton's Bold as our base. I've done it with a few other jerky seasonings. It just doesn't seem to work quite as well. But remember, we are now taking a treat that's supposed to be relatively healthy in jerky, and we're adding 18% sugar to it. So we're kicking that healthy out a little bit.
So when I tell my wife that this is good for our kids, it's no longer actually good for our kids?
Yes.
Dang it.
Yeah.
So John, here's a true story. Last week, Minnesota's turkey season opened, and my son, who we had been practicing all spring, he's got a youth model 20 gauge shotgun, and he's just been dead eye with it. It's been awesome. So he handles the gun well, great gun safety. And I'm like, all right, buddy, it's time. We're going to go. So he's 6. He's going to turn 7 in 2 days here. But 6 years old, we go out to the blind, and you get this big old Tom that comes in and just destroys his decoy, and he takes it down at 10 yards. And I'm so pumped. We're both pumped. Little brother's in there blind with us. I mean, it was just like a father moment that you dream about, right? And so for me, it's always been important to take everything full circle, right? To the dressing, cleaning the bird, to the cooking of it. In this case, this is my son's bird, and so we talked through it. Okay, buddy, what would you like to make out of this? And he loves jerky, right? He loves jerky. So I'm like, all right, let's make jerky. So I took each breast and I made 2 different kinds just to sample it. He was with me for the whole process, and we put it on. I've got a Camp Chef Woodwind smoker, grill / smoker, and so he was with for the whole thing. And now, it's been a day and a half that he's had this jerky, and it's almost completely gone. So my kids have all just hammered it. My wife has hammered it too, but I feel like when I did a little bit of research online, some ideas, and I knew you had a lot of them too, and I knew we were going to be talking about this, so I wanted to pick your brain on it. How do you go about figuring out, or how would you recommend somebody go about choosing the recipe that they're going to make for jerky? And does it apply if it's turkey, if it's pheasant, if it's duck, if it's deer? Can you use the same recipe for all of them?
So yes and no. It's depending on what you want out of your finished product. Pheasant's going to have a different strength of a taste than pork, than venison. They all have their own innate taste. The reason I use pork a lot is because, believe it or not, pork fat has almost no taste. And even the lean portion of pork isn't a really strong tasting meat. So it's a great medium to make a snack stick, to make a sausage out of. Mm-hmm. When you're making wild game venison, some people will up the amount of seasoning they're using by about 5% per pound of meat. So if I was going to use, a pound, I'd use 1.05 pounds of seasoning. Reason for that is the inherent taste in venison, where a lot of people don't prefer it, at least. So they're trying to mask that. Yep. Now, the biggest thing I can say is when you're making your sausage, the best tip is before you stuff it, as you're mixing it up, take a small portion of that out and fry it up in a pan. That's going to give you a fairly accurate representation of what your finished product is going to taste like. It won't be exact, because frying it up in a pan is going to give us a little bit of a different flavor than smoking it in a smoker, but it'll let you know if you're going to be happy with your finished product or not.
Can you do that with jerky too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So with jerky, it's going to be a little bit different because in one of them, we're dehydrating about 50% of the product's weight. Like if you start with a pound of meat, you're most likely going to end up with a half a pound of jerky. Cook that in a pan, you're not going to get that exact ratio. Mm-hmm. So it's going to taste a little bit stronger when it's dehydrated because it's lost 50% of its, weight, and that's mostly moisture. But it will, again, it'll get you in the area. We'll be like, okay, this is basically what this is going to taste like.
I want to talk about certain recipes, but I feel like it's kind of, again, this goes back to what you get to do is you get to test everything, right? Most people don't get to test a product before they buy it. They have to do a lot of research online to say, does it work? What are the reviews on it? They're trusting a lot of other people's opinion. And in some ways, that's what we're doing by having you on, is just to get your opinion on it. But you get to test basically everything. I mean, you got 5,000 SKUs, right? All different kinds of companies and in your own products too. But you guys test everything out there. What are some products that are on the market right now, or like hot items, or products that you're really excited about or that you've used and you're like, hey, this is something that I constantly use?
Well, you just mentioned one in your Camp Chef Woodwind.
Yeah.
I have one at my house. I absolutely love that thing. It is the best pellet combo smoker that I know of. I mean, I've tried a few and that blew the other ones away. Do you have the sear box or the griddle on the side?
Well, I've got the option to do either one.
Oh, you don't have one of those yet?
What's that?
You don't have one?
No. I use the box on the side.
Okay.
And then I also have the just the flat cooking surface as well with the why am I drawing a blank? Yeah,
it's a griddle. Yeah. Okay. I thought you were saying you didn't have either one of those.
No, I do. I've got both of them. That's what I was trying to say. It's insane. So I agree with you. I mean, I got this over a year ago, and I feel like, so this is just my personal take on it, is I've had a lot more fun cooking. But for me, the biggest thing about that grill and that smoker, the Woodwind, my Camp Chef, is that I've got that app on my phone. So if I'm smoking something, I can adjust it. Like I'm out on the lake, out fishing, and I've got something, maybe I shouldn't tell people this because I know you're supposed to stay close to your grill, but I'm adjusting the temperatures and the settings, and I'm watching what the meat temperature is while I'm out and about doing stuff, and I can turn it down, I can turn it up. But the main thing for me is that I feel like when it comes to cooking meat, specifically wild game, the number one mistake that people make is they overcook it. And that's where that gamey taste comes from. Different cuts of meat are meant to be cooked at different temperatures. And now having, I put a little probe in the piece of meat and I'm on my phone. I don't have to be standing right there, or I can watch it, but I know exactly what temperature that meat is at. And I know exactly when to take it off so that it's perfect every single time. What's your favorite feature on it?
So that I have the side sear box, and I reverse sear all my steaks. So what that is, if you're not familiar, is you start the steak at a fairly low temperature and cook it till it's about 10 degrees short of where you want it to finish up at. For me, that's 118 degrees. So I leave it in the smoker, set at 205 degrees until the internal temperature of that steak is 118. I then have my side sear box fired up to as hot as it'll get. Take it off, put it right on that sear box for a minute or so aside. I usually turn it once to get really nice sear marks. And it's a perfect pink all the way throughout every time. And I eat a ridiculous amount of steaks. So that gets used probably four or five times a week. And that's my favorite feature. I absolutely love that thing. The ability to go anywhere you want and maintain or monitor that and make changes is absolutely awesome. But there are other grills out there that'll let you do that. Mm-hmm. This sear box thing is really, they're the only ones doing it right now. And in my mind, it makes all the difference.
Oh, I've done exactly what you're saying. I absolutely love it. My wife loves my new passion for cooking, and I would say that at least in my family life and then in my hunting career, hunters, we go through different stages, right? And mine right now is I rarely will try a recipe more than once. I'm always looking for another new way to prepare something, anything. And that's from birds to, like even my son's turkey that he shot this week. I'm just always trying new things. So it's been a lot of fun to have that tool because I can smoke stuff. I've got the cast iron that I'm cooking on as well, and then I've got the sear box, and I just, gosh, I don't know. Like I'm out on the deck cooking all the time. So one thing that I don't have though is I don't have. That's the Woodwind, right? That I have, and there's also the stand-up smoker too. Now I smoked that jerky on that Woodwind. It turned out I really liked it. Everyone that has sampled it has enjoyed it in the last day. But what is the difference in a stand-up smoker versus the one that I've been using?
So that's their vertical double XL. I have one here. I
Mm-hmm.
do not have one at home, just because honestly, anything I need to do, I can do here. I'm extremely lucky for that.
Yeah.
But we did a side by side on a bunch of different products between the Woodwind and the vertical double XL. We did snack sticks in both. We did jerky in both. We did pork butts, chicken wings, breast, all sorts of things. Basically, if it's a product like a summer sausage, a snack stick, or a jerky, you're going to be better off in the vertical double XL for a couple of reasons. Number one, that thing does an amazing job on pellet management. I
Okay.
mean, I smoked something for 13, 14 hours, somewhere in that range, and it hardly went through an entire hopper, which for anyone with a pellet smoker, if you're smoking something for 14 hours at 225 degrees with the smoke setting on high,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're going through a couple pellet or a couple hoppers. This one did amazing. Plus, the way it's configured, the ability to loop snack sticks up over a smoke stick or smoke stick that comes with it is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. They also have a panel in front of the vent in the upper right hand corner. So smoke can't just come right out the bottom and go right out the top. It gets forced all the way through the chamber. So A, you're making sure all of your meat gets a nice even amount of smoke. And B, that really does a good job in eliminating any cold spots in your smoker.
Hmm.
Both of those, we're doing a giveaway this month at waltonsinc.com/win, where whoever wins is going to get their choice between the vertical XL or the Woodwind.
Dang.
Yeah,
That's pretty sweet.
yeah,
Do you
definitely.
do those quite often?
Yep, we try to do a giveaway every month, just something to say thank you. And then we do monthly live streams too at waltonsinc.com/live. And we draw the winner live right there. We give away usually a bunch of other things during our monthly live streams also.
Dang. Dang. Um, what other, I'm a huge fan of the Camp Chef line because I even have one that I can take into the field with me. So like this last fall on hunting trips, I had their Camp Chef cook setup that I just feel like, I don't know. There's something about eating out in the field. Like, so we're out in the Badlands, right? And we shot sharp-tailed grouse. We went and picked the buffalo berries off the trees, the bushes that we harvested the birds in, the same patch. Brought them back, made this sauce that we cooked them in, and it's just I don't know what it is, but there's something about eating out on the land where you harvested something. It's just like a shore lunch fish fry, right? I mean,
Yep.
you eat fish after you catch it. Doesn't matter where it is. It's fresh. It's right there. It has a whole different taste than if you bring it back home. I don't know. I'm just I'm in love with the products, and I know there's other brands that make them as well, but I can say that I've not had any issues with any of the Camp Chef products. What else are you excited about? Is there more Camp Chef items or other brands that of different products that you would highly recommend right now?
Well, one of the things that happened with all this insanity with COVID was we were having a real tough time with some of our vendors. They just could not get their inventory in. They couldn't get it under control. We have one vendor who occasionally a pallet full of something will show up that we didn't order now. Like, no, we canceled that PO. Come pick this up. But what that forced us to do was go directly to manufacturers and have products made for us. So we have the final say in how something functions in the end. And my favorite thing of this last year is the Walton's grinders. I absolutely love these things. Austin and I did a ton of research, a ton of testing, different models. We made some adjustments to the gapping in the augers, and we brought in the Walton's number 8, 12, 22, and 32. We're calling them the processing grinders.
Okay.
And yeah, I just absolutely love my number 22.
When you put meat into it, do you have to push it down, or does it just take it right in and push it through?
So that's going to depend on a couple of things. What I try to tell people is that stomper should really only be used if there's like almost a bubble at the top of the chamber where the auger spins underneath. You should be just using it to push it down a little bit so it can grab it if it happens to get caught up there. In general, you don't want to be using your auger much. You want your first grind, the meat to be really, really cold. And I'm talking like just shy of frozen cold. And then since it's in these larger hunks, that auger can grab it and push it down towards the plate and the knife with absolutely no problem. The biggest mistake people make is on their second grind. They'll do exactly, well, I don't know if that's what you were saying, but they will shove that down there with the auger or with the stomper, and they'll just push, push, push. When you're doing that, you're creating back pressure, and you're actually slowing down your grind dramatically, and you're overstressing the proteins in the meat. The best thing to do is just slowly push small amounts down the throat, let it fall down there, let it get pulled by the auger, let it get pushed down, and then just push a little bit more. You want to be able to see that whole chamber when you're looking straight down. You want to wait until the meat clears the chamber before you put any more down. And doing that drastically speeds up your second grind and gives you a much better finished product. You should, even when you're going through a small 1/8 plate at the end, you should be able to clearly see the definition of, hey, that was a piece of pork fat, that was a piece of lean. It should stay nice and white and pink. A lot of the times when people do their second grind, they force it down and that smears everything. So all their meat just looks like a kind of a pink mush, but you should still be able to see clearly defined particles of fat and lean.
Well, since we're on the sausage topic here, when it comes to upland birds and making, because you've made pheasant snack sticks before, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What do you have to put into those? Put into the sausage? Do you have to add pork?
Yeah. Well, my recommendation again would be not just pork, but add pork fat.
Okay.
With pheasant, I did 20% pork fat. So if I'm doing a 10-pound batch, that's 8 pounds of ground pheasant, 2 pounds of straight pork fat. Then I'm going to add something called Sure-Gel. It's a binder. Anytime you're making anything that's wild game, Sure-Gel is absolutely what I would recommend you use. It does cost a little bit more than some of the other binders. And again, it's not expensive. I think it's probably $7 for enough to do 25 pounds of meat. But you've already put in all this work, spent all this money on hunting. I mean, spend that couple extra dollars to finish it up and get a product that you're happy with.
So the Sure-Gel would be preferred over a cure, like a curing salt?
Nope. This is in addition to.
Okay.
So if you're making a snack stick, you'll add obviously the seasoning and the cure. When you buy a snack stick seasoning, the cure is going to come along with it, so you don't have to purchase that separately. But then I would absolutely recommend that you add the Sure-Gel and then something called encapsulated citric acid. The encapsulated citric acid does a few things. The two biggest are it allows you to go right from stuffing your sausage right into the smoker. If you don't add some sort of cure accelerator, you're going to have to hold it overnight to let that cure work. The other thing it does is it lowers the pH of the meat giving you much better shelf stability. So it's going to last a lot longer the lower the pH is.
Huh. Are there any products that you still can't get on the shelves right now because of COVID?
No, not really. The only thing that occasionally becomes a problem is some nitrile gloves. For a while there, we were restricting who could purchase it from us just
Really?
because we
What were the
wanted
qualifications?
had to have a commercial customer and
Okay.
had to have purchased them from us in the past. What we were trying to what we were trying to prevent there was somebody buying huge quantities and then reselling them at a enormous,
Yep.
upcharge.
Yep. I was listening to you guys' podcast, the Meatgistics podcast the other day, and I heard you and Austin talking about somebody in, I could be misquoting this. Maybe they were in New York, but they got busted for selling meat as it was like a choice cut
That's my
or
favorite.
a kind of meat that it actually wasn't. Is that common?
I don't think so. I really don't. I was honestly shocked that those people did not get any jail time because that's a major problem in other countries. I'm sure we have it here as well, but I know in Italy, food fraud is huge in the olive oil and the Parmesan cheese market. And once something like that gets a hold of your food line, it's going to be hard to push it out. So I was shocked that they didn't do a much stiffer penalty for those people. I mean, I think it was a $100,000 fine, which is a lot, but I'm sure those guys made more than that by what they had done was they got a USDA stamp and they started marking things as prime. So they basically forged a USDA prime stamp and went around getting cheap cuts of choice meat and marking them as prime. Unreal.
Seems
Absolutely.
harmless enough.
Oh my God. And you think about when we think about those types of cuts of meats, we think of going to a butcher and buying it from there. No, they were selling this to restaurants. So already those people are paying more for the whole dining experience. And then if they want a prime cut of meat, it's even more. So who knows how much money they leached out of the system.
Do you have your pulse on, I can say, where I live in Minnesota, there are a lot of restaurants that shut down because of COVID. Do you have a pulse on nationally what that number looks like as far as how many, let's just call them restaurants, food providers, have closed their doors for good?
Yeah, we covered this quickly in one of our podcasts. I want to say it was 17 or 18% have closed and will never 10.2 have closed permanently and will never reopen. 17% closed, but in some way are planning on coming back. So that's 1 in 10 restaurants gone.
That's tough. I enjoy listening to your show because you guys dig into meat specific topics, but you get into a lot of controversial stuff too, which is kind of surprising. Or you and Austin, you kind of get off on tangents, but it's enjoyable. What are some of the things now that you've been doing your podcast? I think you've been doing it for a year, a little over a year?
Yeah, about a year. So for a while there's specifically one episode that I call, or other people also call, my black pill episode. It was just so negative. I was like, at one point I said, I don't see any hope for us, not us walking the country. I'm like, oh God. So I've been actively looking for like more happy news stories so that we don't get on those negative rants. The coolest one we've done recently is we have a Meatgistics user whose username is No Eyes Processor. And that is because he is fully blind, cannot see, has never seen. And he does jerky, he does snack sticks, sausage, he does everything, boudin. So he first came onto our radar in Meatgistics like 3 or 4 years ago. He made a post asking for some help. And just at the end, he said, hey, just so you know, I have this issue, I can't see. And both Austin and I saw that. We're like, wait, what? So we got in touch with him and we just offered him any help he could possibly need. We said, contact us directly. We'll help you out. So he's made more and more stuff throughout the years. So then, we invited him on, and man, what an insane story. Just totally inspirational. He would hate me saying that that it's inspirational because that's just his life.
Yep.
But if he's not going to let something like that stop him from doing what he wants to do, I mean, what's my excuse? You know?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
amazing.
I did
And
a story of one.
the only thing he contacted me once. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting a slicer." And a slicer has a big, real sharp blade that spins super fast. Like you touch that at all and your finger's gone. And I was like, oh, that makes me really nervous. But I mean, for him, that's nothing. He does knee boarding and what was the other crazy thing he does? Some other insane water sport for somebody who can't see.
Wow. Where does this guy live?
Louisiana.
Oh man, that's a little bit out of my reach. I did a story on a guy in Iowa, and he's an archer, and he's won medals on the U.S. archery team, and he has no arms.
Does he do it with his legs?
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
my.
He's you can look him up, the Armless Archer.
Oh.
Matt Stutzman is his name, and for him, that's just his way of life. He hunts. We went on a turkey hunt with him. And he's calling with his toes on a slate call, and he's got his bow ready, and I mean he's lethal, and he's shooting against people that have two arms, but he has no arms, and it is an inspiration to hear his story. And he's told his story. He's done TED Talks. I mean, he's done a lot of stories featured on him because it's just so incredible what he does. But I mean, it sounds like what's your guys' name again?
Well, his name's Jerry, but his username is No Eyes Processor.
No Eyes Processor. Oh man, I'd like to meet that man. Well, if Jerry can do it, why can't anybody else? What is the biggest reason do you think people don't like to process their own food, their own meat?
So I would say it's one of two things: either intimidation from a knowledge factor.
Mm-hmm.
One of the funniest things on that is I was talking to somebody who's made snack sticks before, but they were sure they couldn't do summer sausage. It is literally the exact same process. The only difference is the size of casing that you stuff it into. Other than that, it is the exact same process. I explained that to them, and they're still like, I don't know. I was like, all right, well, just try it. When we started the Meatgistics stuff, Austin wanted me to do a summer sausage video, and we already had a snack stick one. I said, well, we don't need to. Just tell people use this. Well, the one I finally did at his behest now has 100,000 something views, and
Yeah.
So once again, Austin was right, and I was wrong, but that is probably the biggest thing. The second biggest thing would be money. Either A, people don't want to spend it on the level of equipment that they really should, and they try and cheap out, or, I mean, which is obviously totally valid.
Yep.
They're tapped out from everything they've spent on hunting.
Right. Well, can you say, here are the basics? I mean, if somebody says, you know what, I want to make sausage, or I want to make my own jerky, or whatever it might be, are there just a simple, basic line of items that you recommend to somebody to get started?
Sure. Yep. So one of the things we have, we created Meatgistics University because we were doing all these videos, and if I talked about everything I wanted to talk about, they'd be 20-minute long videos. And those don't tend to do really great on YouTube, especially when you're in as niche a market as we are. So we split them out into what we call Meatgistics University. So we have like equipment needed so if you want to make snack sticks, we have the equipment you need for that. Same thing for summer sausage, all of that. One of the things we're going to be doing when we launch the new version of waltonsinc.com is we will have a snack stick kit. So it'll be a page you can go to where it will list all of the seasonings that you have to choose from if you want to make snack sticks, all the additives that are commonly used, and then we will have all the equipment. So somebody will be able to go to one page, get everything they need.
That's handy.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to be buying a large purchase item, like let's say a grill or a smoker, what should they consider before making that purchase? And knowing that you've sampled and used, so many different manufacturers, what's your opinion on them?
So probably the best thing I could tell anybody who's doing this, and this is how I respond to a bunch of people who ask questions specifically of us through the website, is go to Meatgistics. And we've got 15,000 users now who are more than happy to kick in their opinion on a piece of equipment, a seasoning, anything. Because just being honest, when you ask me a question, you're going to get the Walton's answer. I mean, I will 100% be honest with you, tell you what I think, if a product's worth it or not, but you're going to get it from my point of view. If you want it from another consumer's point of view, somebody else's opinion may be just as valuable, if not more valuable than mine. So that would be my recommendation. I mean, it doesn't have to be Meatgistics. Go to any of these boards, communities. We don't like to call Meatgistics a message board. We call it a community.
Yep.
So yeah, find something like that where you can get individuals and consumers' opinions on it.
So
also look for a warranty.
What would you recommend on a warranty time-wise?
1 to 3 years. I mean,
Really?
that's what almost everything of ours is 1 to 3 years. That's
How often do they get used, the warranties on them?
as far as I know. It's going to depend on the product for sure. Grinders, surprisingly, because they, anything with a motor you'd think is going to have more issues. As far as I'm aware of, there's only been one warranty we've had to do out of the hundreds of Walton's grinders we've sold so far. They are really well built. They're sturdy. We didn't add a bunch of like bells and whistles to it. We wanted to focus on its main aspect, which is we want you to be able to put meat in it and reliably get a good ground product out of it. Because of that, we didn't initially add a reverse function. We determined that it should not be necessary. I've put 1,000 pounds through this, at least 1,000 pounds, probably more than that. And I've never clogged it. I've never needed a reverse setting. So yeah, make sure it's good at its main function. Don't get seduced by, oh, this has a knife sharpener on the back. The grinder
Right.
doesn't need a knife sharpener on the back. So
So there are three main ways people freeze meat, right? A Ziploc bag, wrapping it in freezer paper, or use a vacuum sealer. How long will meat last in each?
So a lot of that is going to depend on what the settings of your freezer are at, and how often you open and close it. So if you put something in a Ziploc bag, throw it in your regular freezer, you're going to have some form of freezer burn within a week to 2 weeks. What freezer burn is, when oxygen can get to the outside of the meat, it's going to evaporate any of the surface moisture and dehydrate that, and it's going to oxidize the outside of that meat. So it's destroying your meat basically by creating or pulling out the crystals, the frozen crystals, out to the surface. I wouldn't recommend you put anything in a freezer in a Ziploc bag for more than a week. If you get a really good vacuum seal on it, put it in there. It stays at 0 degrees or colder. I've eaten meat that's been in a freezer for 6 years, 7 years with really not any real problems, but you have to get a really good seal on it. If you leave any oxygen in there, it's going to over time degrade that meat. So there is an upper end, and 7 years is generally what people say is the absolute outside edge of that. But like I said, 6 years, I've eaten it, and you would think that it's, you wouldn't be like, oh, this meat's been frozen for forever.
Wow. I've got 3 little meat eaters at home, and nothing lasts very long in my freezer. I wish, honestly, I wish I would have shot many, many more pheasants. I wish I would have brought home. I think I could legally take 2 deer last year, so that's what I did. And now I'm thinking, gosh, I need to find a place where I can harvest some more does, because we made different batches of sausage, breakfast sausage, and all the other roasts and everything. I mean, we eat it like crazy, and I just can't get enough of it. But back to the freezer burn. Is there anything that can be done after it's freezer burnt?
Eat it as quickly as possible.
So it's already freezer burnt. Can you just do, that's why people make sausage with it, right? They'd say, all right.
don't leave it in there any longer. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I've seen people try to like scrape it off and put it back in there. That's not going to work. Once it starts, my recommendation would be pull it immediately and get it into some use. Get something, for all that hard work you did to go harvest that. And what you were saying right there, what you were saying, how, you looking for more doughs and you make sausage, make all this. A huge thing that people don't take into account when they're saying like, oh, I don't like the taste of venison. It was probably mishandled at some point. Like the worst thing people do is they throw their big buck in the back of the truck and they drive it around town to show everybody. Nope. Get to processing it as quickly as you can. We sell something called deer and wild game rinse. It's just a little powder that you mix up with water and put it in a spray bottle. I recommend any hunter has it with them. You just spray all around the wound area. It's a mix of like ascorbic acid, some sort of citric acid, and it's going to prevent the growth of all sorts of food spoilage, bacteria. It absolutely makes a huge difference. They've done studies where they've had people, professional meat processors who handle beef, pig, all that, where they do deer, they slaughter it, do it, all the processing themselves, and then feed it to people, and they have no idea that it's not beef. So it absolutely can be done. The biggest problem is how it's handled in between harvesting and processing.
How about hanging? Because I know a lot of meat pulls up in my neck of the woods that have deer that they'll hang. They insist that deer has to hang for a week or longer before they're going to skin it and cut it up.
Yeah, that's gonna depend. I mean, so what we're dealing with there is rigor. There's something called pre-rigor processing. For that, you need a very specific seasoning. So yeah, no, meat definitely does need to hang, but it needs to be hung in a controlled environment. One of the things I hate is when someone says, oh no, I just make this, sopressata in my basement in October. That's the right, humidity and temperature. No, it's not. Like maybe it was 1 or 2 years, but you need some way to control the environment that you're hanging your meat in if you want the best product. I mean, there's a reason people have been hanging deer for thousands of years probably, because it does work. It does tenderize the meat, but it's going to create some of those gamey flavors if you're not doing it in some controlled environment where you have control over both the humidity and the temperature.
So you think it's best to skin that deer and quarter it up right away when it's warm?
I do.
Interesting. How about for upland birds? I know a lot of people that'll do the same thing. They'll hang them and age them, tenderize them. Any take on that?
I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Okay.
Most of the time when I'm doing upland birds, I'm going to inject it with some sort of soluble seasoning that has a phosphate in it. So phosphate's going to increase the water holding capacity of the meat. So the biggest thing that you said was people overcook their wild game. Couldn't agree with you more. It is a huge problem, especially when you get people who are a little bit nervous with it. They're like, oh, I'll just cook it a little bit longer. And nope, you've gone right past the sweet spot into why people hate wild game. Using a phosphate is going to make the meat hold more water. So even if you overcook it a little bit, it's still going to be a nice, juicy, tender cut of meat. And all of those seasonings have fairly strong taste. So I very rarely pick up any wild game taste from upland bird.
So while we're on the seasoning side, are there any combination of seasonings that you prefer for upland birds or for poultry?
Yeah, sure. For really any type of poultry, there's a season, and also I'll say any type of beef or pork. My favorite seasoning is Paws Black Bull. The only way I can describe it is, do you know what umami is?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure if I've had.
Umami, they call it the, fifth or sixth, whatever taste. There's sweet, sour, bitter, whatever, and then there's umami. It's basically like the beefy taste of beef. So this seasoning, Paws Black Bull, does a great job of imparting that flavor into any protein you put it in. I've made turkeys with it. I've made pork with it. I've made pheasant, quail. Absolutely love it. And it is available in two different seasoning formulations. One's designed to be injected and the other is designed just to marinate it in. But that would be my favorite for upland bird.
Would you, if you had to choose one or the other, would you season it or would you marinate it?
I'd marinate and inject it for sure.
Huh. We've got grilling season coming up here across the country. Are there any seasonings that you're high on besides the one you just mentioned for even steaks?
Yeah. So for steaks, like I said, I eat a ridiculous amount of steaks.
Yeah.
My wife looks at me like, what are you doing? The Walton's Ultimate Steak and Roast Rub, that is all I bother putting on steaks anymore. I don't like a sweet steak. Some of these, especially these like competition rubs, tend to have a sweetness to them that I just don't care for myself. The basic flavor profile of it, I would say, is similar to like a Montreal steak seasoning, but we've adjusted the particle size on some of the things and added one or two extra ingredients, and it is all I use on my steaks.
I will actually second that because I think I've used 3 bottles of the Excalibur. I think it was called Excalibur at one point, right?
So there's
Excalibur.
two. There's Excalibur's Ultimate Steak, and then we made our own.
Oh, you do? Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
So I have the Excalibur Ultimate Steak and Roast Rub, and it's incredible. Like my wife is constantly like, "Hey, you check this. You gotta order another bottle. Get another." You know, I mean, it is really, really good. And I didn't know if I was missing out on something else, which is why I guess I asked that question for myself because I wanted to know if there's anything else.
Well, there is a brand new one. They just sent us some samples, and as soon as I tried 2 of these, I ordered them in immediately. It just came out with a Chipotle lime sweet rub that I've used on chicken wings, breast, and pulled pork, and it was phenomenal. And beef ribs, and it was phenomenal on all of them. And then they have the authentic hot buffalo wing rub, which we used in combination with something called Chicken on the Run seasoning, which is a breading to make the best smoked wings I've ever had.
Huh. How do you guys decide which products you're going to take in from which manufacturers? Do they send it, you test it, you approve it, then you sell it?
Yeah, it's kind of 50-50 on that. Sometimes they send us things asking us to carry it. Other times we'll get requests from either customers or Meatgistics members. So we'll go out and actively look for something and bring it in.
Gotcha.
So
how long do seasonings last before they expire, and what happens when they expire? And can you still use it?
Yeah. The seasoning doesn't technically expire. After about 2 years, it starts to degrade. So the freshness, the intensity of the flavor will start to go away. But it doesn't ever really, most of them at least, don't ever really spoil. Cures are a little bit different. The cure can start to inactivate after a certain period of time. So 2 years outside limit for that.
Gotcha. What are some trends that you guys are seeing? I think a couple of years ago, you and we were talking about it, and sous vide was pretty popular. Is that kind of fizzled out?
To a certain degree, it has, but it's almost found a second life, at least for Walton's customers and Meatgistics members. A couple years ago, we were trying to help a guy out who was just having a nightmare of a time making summer sausage. Everything he tried, he was either the fat was rendering out or and leaving him with just a dry, crumbly product. So somebody popped on and said, finish up your summer sausage in hot water. So basically, we just took that and ran with it and started testing it. And I've done, dozens and dozens of batches where I'll pull it out of the smoker once the internal temperature is 130 degrees. So I cook the sausage in the smoker until it's at 130 degrees internal temperature. Then I pull it and I put it into a meat lug where I've stabilized the water at 178-ish degrees. from the time it's 130 coming out of the smoker till it's done, and we're talking about big summer sausage casings, an hour. It cuts hours and hours off of your smoke time and gives you a much better finished product in the end.
Huh, interesting. Well, if somebody still has some birds in their freezer from last hunting season, what might be an idea or two that you could give them to enjoy that bird right now?
So with no processing, or can...
Yeah, maybe one of each.
Okay. So for processing, pheasant pepperoni is top notch.
Really?
Absolutely. It lends itself really well to it. It lets the tang from the encapsulated citric acid and just like the pepperoni flavor from the seasoning really stand out. Also makes it really convenient. You vac pack it, throw it in your freezer, and then just when you're heading out somewhere, grab it, let it defrost, and you can eat it on the run. And then for smoking it, we've talked about it a few times, but one of the really cool things about my job is I get to do a bunch of just experiments.
Yeah.
And when people are smoking at home, one of the biggest issues they run into is something called the stall. So the stall is when your meat starts to really sweat. It starts to expel all its water and it collects on the outside of the muscle. Once that dry air of your smoker hits it, it's going to evaporate that off and cool the meat down. It's the same thing that happens when you sweat, out in a hot day. Well, if you can increase the humidity in your smoker, you make it a lot harder for that water to evaporate off and cool that product down. So we started playing around with ways to increase the humidity in your smoker. What we came up with as one of the best ways is you get an oversized water pan and just some cheap, big automotive sponges. Soak those sponges, stand them up in that water pan, and it's just greatly increases the surface area for everything to be evaporated off of. And we went from, I think, 10% relative humidity when we had just the water pan in there to just under 50% with the automotive sponges.
Can you do that in, let's say, the Woodwind smoker that I have?
I've done it. Yep.
And it works? Dang, because when I smoked, so when I made jerky 2 days ago for my boy, I put the drumsticks in there too. And they stalled on me, and I mean it was a couple of hours, and I'm like, crap, I messed this up, and I think that would have saved me and probably made the finished product taste better. Dang it!
Yeah, it could have helped, but I mean, you didn't mess it up. That is just part of it. That's something we all are going to run into at some point or another, is the stall.
Gotcha. Do you have any opinion on turkey? Right now we've got spring turkey seasons across the country. To pluck the bird or take a lot of people just breast it and move on. Some people really want to get every piece of meat off of it, which I love to do. But to pluck the bird and leave the skin on or off, what's your preference?
So I've only gone turkey hunting a few times, and the last time was 12-ish years ago. But we just breasted it right there. And I mean, I loved that. What you said, if you want to get all the meat, it's the same thing when people are boning out a pork butt. You can spend an extra 5 minutes getting every tiny little piece of meat off there, or, you can call it good with probably 10% more meat still on there. So that's just a personal preference. First, to leave the skin on or not, I'm a weirdo. I don't like my turkey with the skin on, so I would not do it. But
Gotcha. We also have fishing season. For me personally, I haven't frozen a fish fillet in close to 30 years. If I'm not going to eat it within 4 or 5 days of catching it, I don't keep it. I let it go. But because to me, you lose so much of that flavor the minute you freeze it, right? I mean, now people that eat fish in a restaurant that has been frozen and they don't know the difference. And I'm like, you are eating two completely different food sources right now. Trust me, it's not the same as if I caught it. If I fed you that walleye, oh gosh, you would just have no idea what you were eating because you're so used to eating this thing that was frozen and then battered and all this other stuff. What happens to a fillet of fish that gets frozen inside? Like is it just the moisture leaving that fillet?
Yeah. So fish is even more than beef or us. It's a higher content of water. So when you freeze it, you're doing the same thing you are with freezer burn. Like when any type of moisture freezes, it's going to form some sort of crystalline structure.
Mm-hmm.
The way you can prevent that or make the crystal smaller at least is freeze it quickly and very cold. Then keep it at that temperature. But doesn't matter. When it defrosts, a lot of that is leaking out. As it defrosts, the flavor is going to degrade noticeably. And I'm with you. I don't care what anyone says about, no, this frozen is just as good. No, it is not.
It is not.
You cannot make that argument. And if you do make that argument, you have not had good, fresh fish.
Amen, brother. Amen. Where do you get your ideas? We just have a couple more questions here. Where do you get the ideas for the... I have actually probably hundreds of questions because I'm fascinated by what you do. But for our sake of our time, where do you get your ideas for the recipes you're going to try?
So really they come from a couple different places. The main one is Meatgistics. Like I have somebody who either says, hey, I tried this, or what would happen if you, that's the big one. That's the one
where they're from people, from your users. Okay.
From our users. Yep. I get super interested anytime someone says, hey, I wonder what would happen if. I'm like, oh, well, guess what? It's kind of my job to try that. So I've been known to stop what I'm doing, go out to the store immediately and pick something up so I can test out some sort of process. Austin and I talked about this a while ago. For every thing where you pull your sausage and finish it up in hot water or increase the humidity of your smoker, there are 10 things that go nowhere. Like, nope, that did not work at all. I've tried, some of the biggest failures were starting and finishing snack sticks in a sous vide cooker. That was one of the most disappointing things ever. So nasty, absolutely terrible firmness. Everything was off on it. So there are a lot of misses.
What was the worst recipe that you ever made? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, for sure. This is an easy one, and the video will never be released. We started doing a segment called Recipe for Disaster, where we just tried a bunch of things that we had heard of that people, either said were good or, the worst one that we released was a gummy bear brat. Some processor, I think up in your neck of the woods, every year does a gummy bear brat and sells out all the time. We tried it and just thought it was absolutely vile, disgusting taste. But we released that video because, sometimes it's fun to see failures. I assume, at least I like to watch people fail.
For sure. It helps you learn what not to do.
Yep. And then Austin and I also did a Willet barbecue where we did a beer. That was super bad. But the worst one we ever tried was we tried to make a tofu brat, and I would not even eat it. I spit it right back out. It was disgusting. So bad. Yeah, we scrapped all that footage.
Oh, gosh. On the flip side, if let's say you were going out into the field or you're going to the store, there's one thing you could make for dinner tonight. What's your favorite? And you can't say steak because we know it's probably steak.
Well, ribeye, obviously.
Yeah.
So do you know the fake fish, the fake crab meat?
Yeah.
I love taking that and raw uncooked shrimp, then bacon, some dry white wine, butter, capers, and making like a kind of a scampi. It's not really a scampi, but it's kind of that. I love that. I've been making that. Any night I'm not eating steak recently, I'm eating that. But honestly, the biggest surprise to me was how much I love using goose in sausage. It is unreal. We made goose pepperoni. We made goose hatch green chili, snack sticks. Every time I use goose, it comes out top notch. Now, I don't like cooking like a whole muscle cut of goose, but in a sausage, it's excellent. like
So
surprisingly good.
would duck be in the same category then, like a mallard?
It would. Duck fat is going to act a little bit different than goose fat, and I haven't made a duck sausage yet. Reason being behind that is it's fat is good from a creaminess aspect, but it does congeal. So unless you get like perfect levels of protein extraction and really can nail your smoke schedule, you're going to have some like greasy residue in between the meat and the casing. And texture for me with sausages, especially snack stick, is a big one. So,
So true story here on that. So I made sausage my whole life growing up. My parents grew up on a farm. We butchered all that stuff. And a couple years ago, I was out of town, flying back into town, and we have a sausage fest, I guess you'd call it, every year, where after deer season is over, everybody from camp, we get together and we'll make a big, massive batch. Like we're talking 600-700 pounds of sausage in a weekend. And so my buddy, I had 2 bags in my freezer ready to go. My buddy, I said, it's in the freezer, go get the meat. And he went and got the meat, took it out, took it over there to start the process. We obviously got to let it thaw. Anyway, I show up and I'm like, they go, wow, you had your chunks of meat were just perfectly cut. And I was like, wait a second. They already mixed it and it was all in. They took the goose breast that I had set aside for the goose sausage that I was going to make, and they mixed it up. And when we were done with it, we had the venison and the goose sausage side by side, and nobody could tell the difference between the venison or the goose. So I basically said, okay, this recipe works for either one of them, and nobody's ever going to know the difference. So if you go on a hunt and you get, 15, 20 geese, those big goose breasts, the sausage you can make with them is just incredible with the right
absolutely.
recipes.
And one other great thing about goose hunting is I hate geese with a unholy passion. So you're taking more of them out of my day-to-day life. Love it.
Sure. Well, I did it for you then.
There you go.
So so final question here. After all the time that you've spent experimenting with meat, recipes, equipment, is there any advice that you have for someone that might be afraid to try something new? Meaning like maybe they like what they've made, but they don't love it. They know there's other options out there. They're just nervous because this is it. This is all the meat they have. They don't want to risk ruining it. What would your recommendation be for somebody that just, they need to get out of their comfort zone and try something new?
So the 2 things I would say is, one, almost anything you can think of, either we have an article or video or somebody else has done it on Meatgistics. So go there, get feedback on what you're planning on doing. We have people who, it seems like they spend all day on it. Just like when we started, I used to answer every single post. Now there's not a chance of that happening. Like users help each other way more than I get to help them. So go there, get some information, get some feedback, but go ahead, do it. Just do a small batch. So if something goes really wrong, you haven't wasted a ton of meat. Just do a little 5-pound batch, whatever pound batch. You can break any of those seasonings and cures down into smaller batches. And we have instructions on how to do that for a 1-pound and 5-pound batch on Meatgistics too. So yeah, small batches and ask for advice.
Yeah, there you go. That's helpful. I've really taken my love for hunting to another level by bringing home, like when I pull the trigger and I hold that bird, I always used to just embrace that. But now that my family is also eating it, and I feel like there's something, I'm not sure what the word is, but like I walk back and I'm just like, I'm bringing this home to my family, and being able to cook it up or prepare it in a way that they love it makes that hunt so much more rewarding too. So John, I appreciate you taking the time today. There obviously was so much more that I wanted to talk about. We really were, we were jumping around a lot. We didn't focus strictly on upland birds, but I know people that hunt pheasants. A lot of them hunt ducks, hunt deer, turkey. You know, we're hunters. So hopefully this is helpful information. And obviously you said that, you know, there's so much advice that you guys have on your site. You know, and I assume that there's probably certain products that might be available on sale. If there's any other advice that you have for somebody, what might it be?
Advice, just do it. I mean, as long as it's not, not putting a financial hardship on your family. If you can afford to do it, it is so much fun. Like you said, the pride you get from feeding somebody something that you took from a wild animal all the way to the dish, that's unlike anything else that I'm aware of. I mean, it is an amazing feeling of pride and accomplishment. So just get into it. It's worth it.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Once again, thank you to Federal Premium Ammunition and Onyx for helping us to make this show possible. Be sure to download the Onyx Hunt app before your next adventure to find out why it's one of the most valuable hunting tools available today. All of the episodes of the Flush Television Show from our latest season are available now on our YouTube channel. Simply search for The Flush on YouTube, and you'll find all of our episodes in their entirety. And please subscribe to that channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos that we plan to post. If you have a few seconds, we'd also love to get your rating on this podcast. It helps us move up the ranks, and we'll let more people share in on our love for the uplands. Also, you can head to John's podcast, Meatgistics, where you will learn about what John's up to each week, controversial topics in the world of the meat. I mean, you guys dig into controversy all the time, I feel like. So that's a fair... Yeah, which is actually quite entertaining because what a world we live in. Huh? Anyway, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank, reminding you to take the time to introduce someone new to the field.